And I can see you and you can see me, right?
I like the Zoom. It records much easier. It doesn't tax my system so much when I'm trying to do a screen record or something like that. So how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
Yeah.
How are you?
Not too bad. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling fine.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm trying to get things organized.
Yeah. Now, you took some time off of social media. I know that. Now, I don't imagine it's gotten any better for you out there, especially with the topics that you're standing for these days. So,
yeah, I was going to get off social media, and then my publicity person said, publicist, excuse me, said, yeah, no.
We need you there.
You need to be there. So get your butt back on social media. So.
All right, appreciate it. Well, I know we're getting out too late. Oh, actually, just hang on while I get the other guys rolling here. I almost forgot. Everything okay? And we are rolling almost. I'm working on my Facebook live streaming privileges. I'm not working on it. YouTube's working on it. I actually have a Google support rep. Like, seriously, I couldn't believe it. I was on the chat with a Google support guy the other day. So yeah, they're figuring that out for me. Until then, we're just using the fake book and the Twitter. I'm not so impressed with the Twitter feed as far as video quality. And then I got a third recording that goes out with some microphones that should let the sound be better. And we'll edit that, put some titles up for you so people know how to contact you specifically. And we'll get that up on the YouTube. I usually get it up the same day, so I'll work on it later. So Denise McAllister is my guest. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. She is the author of What Men Want to Say to Women But Can't, from North Carolina. Charlotte?
Yes.
Do you attend Elevation Church by any chance?
No, I do not.
Stephen Furtick. He's
yeah, Stephen Furtick. No, I'm
one of my favorites. I'm sorry?
I'm Anglican.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, I used to be Catholic, and I wasn't really into my faith at all. You know, I grew up, I was kind of forced into it. My dad wanted me to be Catholic, and I was confirmed, and just the whole monotony and the formality and blah, blah, blah. And I don't know, somewhere along the way I got into it, and kind of, you know, the church I go to now is called Rock and Roll Pretty Church is what I call it, because I'm really involved in it. I've got a really good men's group there. And I do the video switching. It's like shooting a live concert in the beginning. Mm-hmm. And they're talented. They've got lots of coin and resources and stuff like that. So for the first time over the last, I would say 10 years, I feel a really deep connection to my faith. And it's a support group. My men's group is out of that church. We meet every Thursday morning at 7:30 in the cafe at the church. And yeah, it's based in faith, but there's just a bunch of guys coming together, and it's been really, really supportive for me. And so I've had a whole shift in that department. And, you know, I tell the story that, you know, back before I knew that church, a guy that went to that church, we were at Remax where I used to work in the fax room. And he had said to me how porn was a sin. And I got into this heated defensive debate about, like, dude, like, what if I watch it with my girlfriend or my wife while we're having sex? Or I'm not married, obviously, but is it still a sin if you're both watching it while you're, you know, actually, you know, trying to make a baby? And, you know, and now I'm shifted on that, and you seem to be going to war on it lately. I appreciate your conviction. I know it takes a lot of strength to stand up to the deluge of hate, for lack of a better term, that comes your way. So tell me about what's been going on with you in how it pertains to this kind of this idea that kill the porn. I mean, Gavin McInnes has talked about a lot. I think a lot of people on the right are saying, what are you doing this for? Why are you wasting your energy on something that's not productive?
You're saying that why waste your energy talking about porn because it's not productive, or why waste your energy on porn because it's not productive?
Well, no, on the actual act of watching porn, because then that leads to, I mean, you watch porn for only one reason. It's not just to sit and enjoy it. It's not like watching a movie. It leads to an ending, which we all know is usually, alone. I mean, how is that going to improve your life?
I don't know what has gotten these other conservative pundits on it. I don't know exactly what happened, if there was something in the news. I've been writing about porn for years. So, in fact, I did a book a couple of years ago. I ghost wrote a book with a celebrity, and it was, a lot of it had to do with porn. And so I'm pretty steeped in it and very anti-porn. But I'm not for government banning it. So, but I'm anti-porn as far as the discussion of, is it a good, is it healthy? I do think, there should be restrictions for age. Somehow we need to figure that out on the internet, how to keep kids off. I don't even know if that's possible because of how the internet functions. Really the first line of defense is definitely self-government. For kids, it's parental controls and parental instruction and oversight. As a culture, I think it's good to have a dialogue about when things are unhealthy. And we do that with drugs, we do it with alcohol, we have PCAs out the wazoo about one thing or another. I think that's particularly, especially important, when it comes down to things that affect relationships. Because, I wrote a book about relationships, so I'm big into healthy relationships between men and women. And I think porn undermines that in a lot of ways. So I've been talking about it. It's nothing new for me. A lot of people are like, why are you on the porn bandwagon? And I'm like, I think I am the porn bandwagon. If you've been reading my writings for the last 5 years. So.
What are you most concerned about? What do you think it leads to, or how does it tear relationships down or apart, or, have negative effects on the family unit?
Well, I think over time, an occasional look at a porno or, looking at a girly magazine and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's not the kind of stuff I'm talking about. And that's not really what's the concern here. The problem with the internet is we're already addicted to the internet anyway. I mean, we're online all the time, one thing or another. Yep. But when you get online for something as fundamentally connective and relationship affirming and something that should be inherently steeped in love, when you get that from the internet and from porn, it causes a desensitization. And if you're doing it a lot, and if that becomes, especially for men, and it doesn't take a lot for men to get these images in their head, and they need that for more and more excitement when they're having sex, they often have to go to the image in their head, to really enjoy the sex, or to, really have the orgasm that they want. The person that's right in front of them isn't enough. I mean, this is just, it's not, even that's not even a character commentary. That's just nature. That's how the brain functions. So it causes dysfunction. It causes, desensitization. It's dehumanizing to the person, that you're doing it, watching. They're dehumanizing themselves. I talk to way too many women who have husbands who aren't making love to them, but are instead in the basement looking at porn. It's a thing.
Wow, I can't imagine that.
Well, it happens. I know it happens. And, more and more women are, I had a very beautiful, beautiful, lovely model who will go unnamed, tell me, and any man who looked at her would go, oh, I would be in the sack with you in a minute, in a heartbeat. And if I was dating you, that's all I'd want, complaining about, her husband looking at porn instead of being with her when she's, it's just an addiction. It's an easy release. I don't care how beautiful the woman is or how sexy she is. Familiarity breeds contempt, and you get bored with people if you're used to constant titillization from something else. And it's just inviting images and other people into a realm that's sacred for one man and one woman, And, it's distorting and perverting the purpose of sex. And the purpose of sex is, for cohesion between two people and complementary love and passion and connection, physical, soul, and emotional connection. This is why it's a tragedy if you're not having sex with your husband. You need to get in the bedroom and have sex with them, because that's important in relationships. And the physical is very important. And it's also to make babies. So, but not always. I mean, so, the foundational of sex is that joining together, the becoming the union of the one, of the masculine and feminine, of men and women, and in that, I think we really do represent the image of God on earth best when we're having sex.
Man, that's a great way to put it. And I certainly get the
good sex, real sex, covenantal sex. Sex based on real love and trust, not looking at someone else going at it on the line. Sure, it's gross. I mean, come on. Reflect on yourself when you're doing it and feel the grossness.
I certainly get the.
Put a mirror up and watch you watching the porn. Unless you're a total creep, you find that a little scuzzy, skizzy, nasty.
I completely get.
You're a loser. Feel bad about yourself. You should.
The desensitization is certainly something that's important. And as I put it to earlier in the conversation when I was having this quote debate with the guy I worked with that thought, was trying to state how it was a sin. I'm like, well, what if you watch it together? And I don't. This might be an overshare, but like when you've gone a few rounds. My girl used to say, well, you want me to get the porn going so we can go another round so she could have another round at it too, because you're spent. I mean, you go that many times and you're spent. So I certainly get it, but I wonder, it kind of makes me wonder, one of my questions to you and to many of my guests is what do you think your purpose on this plane is, on this earth? And I know you're a Christian woman, so you can't say glorify God and love your brother, because I think that we all need to get with that, Christian or not. I think we need to be reminded that there's something higher than us out there, whether you call it God or the universe, the oversoul or what have you. I'm pretty sure this earth wasn't, created without another being going, here, we'll give you some help here. It's just, I mean, you look at a rock or a plant or the ocean or the lake and you go, this is all a miracle. This doesn't happen. Mathematically, it's impossible for this to come together, for this atmosphere and everything to hold this thing together without something else helping it along. So I wonder, outside of glorify God, love your neighbor, what do you think you're put here for? What do you think your mission, your purpose on this planet is?
Well, let me start with what your comment was before that about, hey, let's put on the porn so we can have one more go around. I mean, isn't it fun? Let's go for 4 times, 5 times. I remember one time with my husband, hey, let's get it up. Let's get up to 6 times a day. Come on. What do we need to do? Anyway, kidding. Sort of. But sex is great. As many orgasms are never bad, a bad thing, good thing, feel good. But really purpose is key. And is the purpose when you're having sex just the orgasm? I mean, really think about purpose. Is the end goal is sex completely and totally goal oriented, and the goal being getting off? No. Is it one aspect of it? Is it an important aspect of it? Sure. Ask any man. It's really hard for them to even make out if they don't have that as the goal. It's like, why am I doing this if that's not the goal? But there's more to sex, and there's more to intimacy than that. And when you start getting into, hey, I'm going to use other people, and because even the talk about porn, when I hear people talk, they forget you're talking about other human beings that you're looking at. Unless you're in there with the anime porn and all that kind of stuff. You're talking about, or even if it's imaginary, you're talking about other people being brought in, to get you going. And so there you're using people as tools. You're using another person as a tool for your own self-gratification. And one thing that is the opposite of love is using others as a tool to inappropriate or wrong end, and that is sin. Sin is a perversion of what is a right way or right way of being or wrong purpose of using things. It's a corruption. It's diabolical, and that it twists the essence of what is designed to be, and twisting it into something else. And one of the biggest violations is using other people as means to an end. This is against the Kantian categorical imperative. You're doing harm when you're using other people as a means to an end. So hey, all you libertarians out there, darlings, I love you, but you are doing harm in porn. You are.
Some people would say, who am I hurting? I'm just, it's all.
You're hurting yourself, and you're hurting that other person because you're using another person as a means to an end, and you're basing yourself in the process. Mm-hmm. So, harm isn't just physical harm or stealing stuff from people. Harm is also about the essence of our humanity, and in our spiritual being, in our emotional being, in our bodies. We are not, let me repeat it, to use one another as tools. Even if I voluntarily put myself into a position to be used as a tool, free agency doesn't erase the toolage. I'm not talking about, it's just not. I can, even if I say, hey, go ahead, use me, as a whipping post, or use me to beat up on, or use me to have sex with, or to watch. I'm putting myself out there to be used as a tool. It's contrary, and it's a perversion to the dignity of me as a human being, because people are to be ends unto themselves, not tools to your personal end. And in light of that, because I know it's some questions people are going to go, well, aren't we all tools when we're working? Aren't we all being used as means to an end when we're in productivity? Or aren't models being used as tools when they're walking down the runway, wearing clothes? The difference there is, yes, are we in the process of having a means of production to an end in a common goal here? Yes, but the difference is, are you being used and using yourself voluntarily for a good? And that's the difference. I can contract with someone to do something, like give you a massage to release the tension on your body. That's a good that we've contracted together, and my hands are being used to do that. The problem is that when you use someone or use yourself, either against their will, which we all can agree is bad, or even according to their will, but for the wrong and for a twisted and perverted purpose that doesn't lead to good, that again, you're using them as a tool for your own evil ways. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
And so now that's fundamentally my horror at porn, is that debasing of the human being, the one who's watching and the one who's doing. And of course, do you have the legal freedom as a free, red-blooded American to do that? Yeah, but I'm not talking about your legal rights. I'm talking about your moral obligations as a human being, to yourself and to other people.
Yeah. So, and work back to the question on purpose for you. What do you do for yourself?
Well, as far as, talking about, I kind of got off there about purpose.
Oh, that's fine.
You're talking about the purpose of human beings. You're talking about, do we have a purpose? The thing is that, what is our purpose here? I think, what is the catechism, the Westminster Catechism? I'm here to glorify God and enjoy him forever. It's a very esoteric thing. As human beings, we're all human beings. We all share one purpose as human beings, and that is to love one another, as image bearers of God, and to spread that love and create and be good to each other, and enjoy life, and enjoy the creation that God has given us, and enjoy him in the right ways that we have through love and other people. It's really that simple. And I don't mean love as in that mushy-gushy Hollywood stuff. I'm talking about truly engaging with other people as full persons, other human beings in the full image of God, and loving them and promoting through our humanity creativity, music, art, productivity, building cities, building civilizations, coming together and enjoying life, food. I mean, this is what existence is supposed to be about: community and love and enjoying truly God's creation and God himself, in community. We're all to do that, and then in that is our relationships, and fundamental of that relationship is the relationship between men and women. And as men, you have a purpose all to your own, as men, gifted to you in your masculinity. And as women, we have our own purposes in that relationship, and we bear life. You guys protect it. So, and then as individuals, we all each have our little individual purposes that God has given. There's no one like me in all the rest of the world. And I have my own little purpose to use my gifts according to how God has given to me, to be loving and to spread light and to build and create. And you do too. And all of you watching, you have your own individual purposes. But I can tell you this, as human beings, we all share the same purpose. And when we violate it and we don't love one another and we use each other as tools, you are violating your purpose as a human being.
Tell me what's going on.
And the responsibility that you share to other people in that, our responsibility, we have our purpose is to love and carry the burden of that responsibility of loving other people. And in that we find meaning.
Yeah, I think we're being coaxed out of this community. I heard, I don't know who's the podcast. I think it was Gavin's latest episode talking about there's no community in big cities. You don't wave at your neighbor. Maybe it was Tim Pool. I think it was Tim Pool talking about, like, he says hello to his neighbor. He has a relationship with his neighbor. He's not over there playing cards every night, but he says hi to him, shakes his hand. He feels like he's there to protect his property when he's away. And you get into the big cities and that's gone. And this is what I've lamented so much lately. I've come around, it started with Jordan Peterson doing a deep dive on the big five, why men and women are the way they are, how the differences, kind of manifest out in real life. And this idea of a total lack of personal responsibility here. We're so narcissistic these days. It's always someone else's fault. It's always the traffic. And, I'm a guy that takes my word very seriously. And I appreciate, like today, I think you're in the minority of people that have the integrity. If you're running late, you let someone know, because they're sitting on the curb, on the porch, on the computer, waiting for you to show up. And it's so frustrating. I remember 25 years ago, first getting into real estate and waiting 10, 15, 20 minutes for my client to show up and thinking like I was burning mad. And it was a great example of, like, I'm not going to do this to people. And so I say all that to say, I've been really, submerged in what's wrong with men and women these days. What's wrong with the political left and right? Why are we warring so much? And I think I made too much out of that, because we've certainly been more divided over time. I mean, in the States, we had civil wars, we've had, major conflicts where I think we forget, we get comfortable, we're soft right now. But for me, one of the greatest issues that society is facing now is fatherlessness, especially in the States, when they brought in, you can't have a man in the house if you want a welfare check. And now 85% of the Black community is fatherless. Like, there's no father in the home. And I think it's absolutely destroying our civilization bit by bit. And I think Jordan Peterson makes a big deal out of this too. Like, what do you mean you're going to scrap all your Western values? What the civilizations were built on over a millennia, you're going to throw out the window. And then you think that your society is still going to have foundations, solid foundations to build itself on? No, the foundations are gone. Society collapses. So, I'm frustrated by it, because people are talking about guns. They're talking about, well, we've got some serious issues. But to me, there's nothing more serious than fatherlessness right now. The lack of mentorship, the lack of eldership. We don't have the men standing in the field, and that food that's transmitted through osmosis, not even conversation, just watching, just standing beside the father. No, we sent the father off to the plant and he comes home angry. Well, now we've sent the women out into the world and they're not coming home any more patient than the father was from the plant either. And I don't think we've seen the full effect of how that's going to affect young boys and girls too, specifically sending women into the world now. And geez, have we put less of a value on motherhood like this? And we've trained our women to say, well, you're nothing if you don't get a job and you don't go out there and kill it. And then, you know, these young girls turn to be 35, 40 years old, and they're looking around and they've got no one. They've got no family. Hey, now they're past their prime for having children, and their innate purpose for giving birth is out the window. And then you're cold and bitter for the rest of your life. So anyways, I'm rambling. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, no, I mean, and I write a lot in my book about fatherlessness and about disrespecting the role and the purpose of the man. And I think it goes back, I think there's a couple of factors that have created this crisis of fatherhood in our society. I think one, technology has played a role.
How?
In that, with the rise of technology, I think we all know the one, you know, men used to work in the home or on the farm and all the family worked together. Industrial revolution kind of put the fathers outside of the home, so they were gone all the time and then came back. You know, that's a problem. But, you know, there's been plenty of societies where fathers were gone lots and long, you know, on campaigns or away because the travel wasn't the way it is now. So that caused a separation. But technology itself has created an ease, and we live in a leisure society now because of technology. And I'm not putting down technology. We all want technology because it does that. We're always looking at technology to make things easier and more efficient and to help us discover new things. So, but one of the, you know, unintended consequences of this advancement is a leisure society. And we like the leisure society, but the problem with the leisure society is it creates a soft mentality and a soft society, physically and mentally. And men are designed to, and their purpose is really found in a hard society and not a soft society, as masculine men. And so that's kind of created, you know, an existential crisis a little bit for men to know, you know, where does their urges and their masculinity come into play in a very soft society. The other thing that the soft society creates is a very maternal and feminine ethos. When you live in hard times, you really lean on fathers who are specifically designed to make you face the world and the hardships of the world. Moms are great. Moms are the life creators, and we breed you and we raise you and we nurture you. We love you unconditionally. You know, it's beautiful being a mother. You know, I've raised 6 kids. It's a glory unto itself. And it is, you know, it's a gift. You can't live without women, and you want us, and we're beautiful, and you need to protect us and all of that. And we give so much to you, life included. And, but fathers, what they do is that they're not caught in that world. The dads are the ones who are outside of that nurturing little bubble, just by very nature. I mean, physically, they're just not. You know, the creators, they're not the ones you were birthed from. They're not moms. And dads are very equipped to teach the heart. They bring you out of mom's world into dad's world. They bring you out of the internal world of the feminine into the external world of the masculine. And that's a hard journey to make. And kids don't like it. We don't like it. We want to stay in mommy world. You know, it's hard to raise kids to face the hard responsibilities of life. But, you know, and moms do it. Don't get me wrong. And moms do it, especially if dads aren't doing it. But dads are especially equipped to do it and designed to do it. And they bring girls out of the framework of the mommy world by showing them what men do for them and how they survive and the realities of the world, and even teach them themselves how to survive. They do it for boys, teaching them how to be men and coming out into the external world and be strong and conquerors and protectors and providers and all of that. And to face the hardships of life. And they teach both boys and girls to face the hardships of life. And you know, think about it, anyone who's raised kids, it's hard to teach them that discipline and that responsibility. And they don't like it. It's not hard, but they eventually do. And well-raised kids are kids that you've raised to face the hardships of life and the hard things of life, and to be responsible and loving in them. Dads are key in that. But in the process, it's not very comfortable. It creates anxiety, and it's hard. So a society that is a soft society, that is basking in the maternal glow and loving the feminine softness, does not like the masculine presence that says, grow up, be responsible, you're not entitled, you're gonna lose, life isn't fair, work hard, get off your butt, do things. And then when you have a leisure society not making them have to face those hardships, it makes it harder to learn those lessons. It almost becomes almost a little fabricated to actually have to teach them those lessons. You have to create situations for them to, go play paintball games to learn how to, what I mean? You have to create environment and situations to teach them hardship. It doesn't come naturally. Mm-hmm. They're not facing the plague, in the winter because the rats are coming and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So we now live in this soft society. And so in this soft society that loves this maternal, men and masculinity are seen as the enemy. And they don't like it. It's toxic to them. It's, the masculine presence is oppressive. We don't like it, and then that with a whole ideology of feminism already here and present, pushing the feminine superiority mentality. It all is like a perfect storm against men and fathers. And it really pushes against the grain of the need for the masculine. And so instead of the feminine and the masculine working together in their different roles of, nurturing and having a place of unconditional love and relationship, which is so necessary, and community and society, that working in conjunction with the masculine, this is, well, there's also a hard life and responsibility and duty that you need to be doing in life. Those used to work together. Mom and dad used to work together. Masculine and feminine used to work together in that. Now they're in competition. Now the woman looks at what the man's doing as a threat, as some kind of alien patriarchal force that's oppressing everyone, and we need to avoid them and fight against them and not let them have any kind of superiority or victory or even presence or voice in society to teach us these lessons. And men now are backlashing, and the whole group of men are like, well, then I'm just going to go my own way and screw you. And you bunch of weak-willed women, you don't know anything, there's hostility back. And, or I only see you as sex figures. And, the only thing you're good for is sex. So I'm going to get my prostitutes and my porn and the heck with the rest of you. That's all you're good for. And you don't appreciate me anyway. I'm doing my own thing. So you have this, look at this nasty mix we now have. And so because neither one are now living according to their purpose in community and in love and in cooperation as the masculine and feminine. And it's aggravated by a leisure society. I predict if we have a cataclysmic falling out of the world, you'll find a coming back together and coming to Jesus moment about who we really are. We're not going to be talking about whether your penis can be a vagina.
No.
And all of that.
We're way too soft. I predicted that would happen after 9/11. And I think for a little bit, for the most part, we did kind of go back to our gardens and our dinner parties and our churches and our communities, but it didn't seem to last long. I agree completely with you. Geez, I have a hard time getting anyone from the left to come on and actually debate with. I'm really in tune, and I don't know if I told you this before, but I'm a 10-time Green Party candidate. I have been left as left gets, and I've switched. I've really had a hard time, and I think Peterson really explained it for me only recently, because I'm like, why does this hurt so much? I've changed my opinion on abortion. I used to be completely pro-choice because at 24 years old, the first time I ran for a federal Green Party candidate, that was the platform. So it was my job to be a robot and just go sell the platform. I mean, in 1993, nobody even knew what the Green Party was. Now they're pretty popular in Canada and they hold a few seats. Capital punishment. I used to say eye for an eye, put them down. I've just kind of come around on that too. And there's been a number of issues. And I think Peterson put it like when your belief system changes, you think that you just throw it out and it's not painful? No, that is a complete transformation. And I've had a hard time with, you know, I don't know if it's wisdom or what. I'm 51. I'm not 24 anymore. I'm not ideologically possessed as much as I was before. And Crowder really helped me, you know, just watch and change my mind. I'm like, oh, dude, yeah, a question of when is it life is really important in this context, in this debate. And so I've had a hard time coming along, and I agree with you. You know, we've built a soft society, and it's really had impacts on both sexes. I think men are kind of confused right now. I wonder what your I appreciate your prediction as well, and I'm not, you know, saying to look into the future, but what do you think? Is it just a matter of the pendulum going back and forth? Like, what's your kind of prediction of where we are now, and how far left are we going to swing before it starts coming back? And God bless Trump. I mean, I said when Trump was elected, I will not waste any hate on this man. I have my hate pretty well placed where I like it right now, and I'm trying to get rid of it. It's impossible. I don't know how.
No, we all struggle with that.
No, and I think we're all Donald Trump, and that's what I'm so frustrated by, is that why can't you just admit you're a little bit narcissistic, you're a little bit xenophobic? I think it's natural to not hate, but to fear different people, I think we've come through a millennia of, when two tribes came up against each other, we didn't play cards and have sex. We tried to annihilate each other. So I think it's inherently built in our DNA. And I think Trump, for me, has he turned me on to American politics. I did not give a rat's ass about American politics before Trump. Now I can't stop watching. And another thing is all these immigration and cages and all these issues have been going on for decades. No one would ever talk about them under Obama's 2 terms. Now we're talking about them. At the very least, he started a conversation. And I just think it's kind of disingenuous to say, you know what, I got a little bit of Trump in me too. And I really wish that people would just start saying, you know what, no, I'm not a real great person. I'm working on it. I'm a work in progress. It's a lot of work to be loyal to your wife, to be loving to people that are not, like, I wonder about you, because I have my times on social media too, where I'm just like, how do you be nice to people that are constantly throwing shit at you, just being hateful all the time, for you to go, okay, well, I love you? It's just like, come on, man, it's so difficult. But he's really opened me up to, you know what, I got a little bit of Trump in me. And I think a lot of people just refuse to admit that they have a little bit of hate, or they have a little bit of prejudice, or they have a little bit of narcissism, because and then, you know, you get to a simple example like Madonna at the Women's March. She's standing on that stage talking about bombing the White House, and she doesn't get that she's doing to Trump exactly what he's doing, you know, outward. And I know you're not a huge Trump supporter. You're a more hardline conservative than that.
I support Trump, but, you know, yeah. I mean, he's not a conservative, but, you know, he's actually governed more conservatively than conservative presidents in the past. So no, I support my president. Not in everything. I mean, he's not right in everything, but
no,
he's not
I
the
get
demon
that.
that everyone makes him out to be.
Yeah, and well, Tim Pool says all the time, like, okay, Trump, he's got his ways. He's not that bad. And another thing I appreciate about his term so far is he's exposed the left for the absolute hateful hypocrites that they are. This tolerant left. Are you kidding me? Like, I've never seen more intolerance coming from any single one group of people than I've been seeing. Now, don't get me wrong. The liberals, I think, and I'll put myself in a conservative camp, because right now, freedom of speech and 2A, these are what I'm passionate about right now. And, you know, I asked you about purpose earlier. Do you really think that you're going to change anybody's mind, you know, on the internet about, like, does God exist? Is abortion wrong? Like, I think I've given up trying to change people's feelings, but I shifted, you know, but I think I came to it on my own. It was, you know, Steven Crowder, that nobody sat me down and says, I need you to watch this. It's just, you know, I found him funny. I think he's talented. He's got a well-produced show. And I'm like, oh, that's a really important discussion point on this debate, is when is it life? And I like his strategy of, okay, let's back up until we can find a point where we agree. You know, okay, can we at least agree that conception is life, you know, or heartbeat is life, or what have you? So it's been a frustrating road for me, but I wonder, how do you deal with the constant brush and then keep your faith and your strength and your values rather than, hey, I know, it's just like, forget it. I'm done with this. I can't take it anymore,
Well, we each have our calling and we each have our place. I mean, one of the key things is to find out where your voice is most effective and use it there. You're not going to win every battle and you shouldn't be fighting every battle. So that's key, first of all. And then, where is best to, fight those battles? If you're only looking to social media, you're going to be frustrated. And so you need to diversify your influence, if you will, and reach out to different people in different forums in different ways. I do it through writing articles, through books, through podcasts, through fighting on social media, through personal interactions, conferences. There's all kinds of different ways to interact. Do you change people's minds in an age where people have tossed reason to the wind? That's where, Jesus left the 99 just to go out to get the one. He went through the wilderness, So the kind of way I look at it is, if I change one or two minds out of the thousands, that's a start. And that's how I think of it. I don't think that, I'm going to bring in hordes into the Denise camp. I expect to be alone and to make very, very little progress. That's my expectations.
Low expectations. So.
Yeah, and they're realistic, I think. I'm not saying I don't have those expectations to surprise myself, but because I really do think them. As far as my, attitude toward it, I get angry. One of my most angry tweets echoed throughout the world and got me into big trouble because I was very angry because it became very personal. And, so I have Irish blood in me. Of course I get angry. So not doing that and keeping your temper is really important, and not taking everything personally. And I try to do that. I kind of resort to snark sometimes, or sarcasm, or I just block people, or, try to figure out, who's really wanting to have a conversation. I also, what people don't understand is when I'm on social media and I'm debating, a lot of people are like, why are you debating these people? It's not only because I'm debating that person. I know other people are reading it. Thousands of other people are reading what I'm writing. I may not be convincing this person, but other people are seeing my arguments. And I do get a lot of emails and DMs from people saying, I see what you're saying to that person, and it's really changed my mind. I've had men write to me on DMs saying, wow, you've really opened up my eyes to porn. And I really want to change. I've had gay men write me and say, you really made me think about homosexuality and reflect on that. And I want to change. I've had 2 people recently talk to me about this. I can't really help them. I direct them to men who've overcome that lifestyle and have them talk to them. But it's just, you'd be surprised about what opens up people's eyes and what people respond to. I think it's also important in this day and age of the feels that you do allow yourself to be vulnerable and human. Admit when you're wrong, admit when you've been a bomb, admit when you failed. And that doesn't mean going around apologizing all the time, but it means, I've messed up. I haven't been the perfect person. A lot of people say, why are you talking about porn? Who are you? Mother Teresa. And I'm like, no, it's because I'm not Mother Teresa. It's because I've been through some crap in my life, because I've misused sex, because I've been a whore in my life. I know what it's like. I know the dehumanizing effect that, sex wrongly experienced, if you want to put it that way, what it does to the body and soul and heart and relationships. I talk as a sinner to other sinners. I talk to people, a broken person in the hospital, to other people who are in the hospital, who don't know they're in the hospital, or who don't think they need treatment. And I think it's just important to keep the dialogue going. I just do. And to continue to speak the truth. And if you're the only one shouting it from the mountaintops, then you're the only one shouting it from the mountaintops. But at least someone is shouting it from the mountaintops, and maybe someone will have ears to hear at some point.
Well, I give you a lot of credit for your strength and your commitment and your value system. And I think it's important that, you know, and I like your analogy of this existential threat that we, you know, and I said, I thought we were going to achieve this after 9/11. And it's almost like if the aliens come and we're like, oh, okay, so it's the fight for humankind, for the whole race. I think we forget that we're more the same, doesn't matter what our race or sex or religion or whatever, we're more the same than we are different, like on so many scales. And
fundamentally, we're the same. Fundamentally, I mean, the absolute fundamentals of who we are. But the problem is that, you know, you were looking to 9/11 to bring change, or you were looking to, you know, if any kind of other horrible thing happens, it won't change as long as, well, first of all, we still had our leisure society and self society, even with that happening, and even with the fear in the back of it. But until people really come back to objective reality and objective truth, and the objective reality about human beings themselves, and about who women are, who men are, and about relationships, we won't find healing in our society. I think the big evil in our society right now is the tyranny of the subjective. And I think you and I have talked about that before. As long as you think that there's only your subjective reality and your subjective truth, that in itself breeds dysfunction, mental dysfunction, and narcissism. Because subjectivism is the fodder for egoism. And as long as you think that you are the island of your own truth, you will be at war with everyone else's truth. You will feel entitled to speak. You will want people to bow to your own subjective will, because you won't have any kind of objective ties that bind. I mean, what is it that you know, and it will form more and more groups and more division. Subjectivism does. It isolates us from other people, so that to the point that we're only gravitated to other people who even remotely reflect our own subjective truth. And that's why we have such a broken society in all kinds of different groups and camps. And we can find all of our like-minded people on the internet. So unlike when we used to live in small towns, we had to deal with everyone who was different from us. Now we can go and search out everyone who's just or kind of like us, no matter how freaky it is, you know. And so we become more and more divided. If we do not have objective ties that bind, objective realities and objective truth that shows us that we're all the same as human beings, that shows us that men and masculinity have common elements that are different from the feminine, and that women have common elements and characteristics and purposes that are indigenous to them. As long as everyone's like, my individuality and my subjective truth and my truth is the truth, as long as everyone has that attitude, you won't have any kind of coming together and cooperation. You will have more and more division. That's one of my biggest concerns, is our complete abandonment of objective reality. Because I think that will be our undoing.
Yeah, I think it's been a long process as well, this whole narrative of, you know what, you're perfect exactly the way you are. No, you're not. Actually, you need a lot of work to be better. And we've, you know, you can be anything you want to be. Well, no, you can't unless you work very hard at it and train and practice. And this idea that
the hard work, the masculine ethos of hard work and failure, and the fact that you may not get what you want.
Right.
These are all very masculine energies, you know, in our experience that are being suppressed. Everyone wants their safe spaces, and everyone wants their entitled world, and everyone wants the same that everyone else has. And if they don't get it, then it's your fault. How dare you take from me? You're a misogynist, sexist, homophobic pig. And, you know, I'm not getting what you have, or you're not respecting what I have, you know, and I am God, don't you know? And, you know, you need to bow to my will because it's legitimate, damn it. And no, not everything you say is legitimate. Sometimes you are wrong and deluded. And, you know, because there is objective reality, and I don't need to respect it just because you say it.
Participation ribbons have gotten us into this place. Can talk to me a little bit, Denise, about what appears to be a little bit of a division on the right. I mean, I'm seeing it in questions at the mic at conservative speakers like Shapiro, I don't know if they've hit Crowder yet. I don't know anything about Nick Fuentes other than what's been kind of brainwashed. You know how the media kind of labels you something and you just say, oh, okay, so he's a white supremacist then. And you've never really looked into what it is that he said. Where was the context? And I'm guilty of doing that. And again, I don't really know anything about the man, but it seems like the right has had a little bit of a split from, I don't know, do you consider yourself what they call, I think McInnes is calling it a tradcon, traditional conservative, where marriage, man, woman, family unit, very traditional Western values. And, but they seem to be coming to the mic and asking questions that don't seem appropriate. But, and maybe it goes back to your split with Shapiro as well. And I don't know exactly what happened there. I know the story a little bit. But what do you think's happening on the right, or is this something that we be needing to pay attention to? Because I think definitely it's happened on the left, but I think the liberals are just kind of sitting there looking to the extreme and going, you guys are idiots. I think we're all looking to the left saying that now. Is it happening on the right a little bit now, or what do you see?
The left may say they're idiots, but they still work together, and when it comes down to it, and pretty much
vote in a block. Yeah.
Yes. Isn't it interesting how these little labels, and then we have tradcons now. We just reduce everyone to one.
Oh, she's a tradcon.
I know, it's really, we love our labels. We love reducing people to one thing instead of seeing people as fully integrated human beings who are complex and often contradictory, and yet still sincere, and right and wrong and all of this. It's very easy, again, if we're only looking at things just as subjective little groups, then you're going to identify other people by their lowest common denominator and whatever it is that you don't like about them. Well, the whole issue of the right and the kind of the civil war that's going on there is not new.
Okay.
The right has never been monolithic. And, way back to Reagan and Goldwater before that. And you have your more traditional conservatives, and then you have your Republican, more economically focused groups. And you have your more conservative political minded people. Then you have your religious, back in the 90s, you had the rise of the moral majority, the Ralph Reed crowd, and you had, when they were focusing a lot on abortion, and the Republican establishment types didn't want to talk about abortion because they thought it lost them votes, and so they didn't want to deal with the social issues. And so there's always been this conflict within Republicanism and within the GOP and within the conservative branch about what the focus should be in opposition to the left. Now we have probably more influx of libertarianism into the conservative and into the Republican ranks, and that's causing its own kind of conflicts because the libertarians are socially liberal, and but yet they're also more passive. They're more don't be interventionists, and so in international politics and war, and so you have a lot of division already there. You also have what you saw with Trump. Is you also saw a big split between Republicans who really like things status quo and who like to say they're the principled ones and we just hold on to our conservative values, however they defined it. And then you had the Trump supporters who were like, you need to do more. You're not fighting the left the way you need to fight the left. They saw this brand of traditional or establishment Republicans as giving in to the PC culture too much, being afraid of labels, being afraid of things like being called a racist. So they tried to placate the left too much. And a whole group of people rose up and supported Trump because one thing Trump didn't do was placate the left. And he didn't let them get away with the labels. Oh, you're going to call me a racist? I'm not a racist. Or no, I'm going to say more that you thought that was racist. I'm going to say it even more, so you'll call me a racist even more and make yourself look like a fool. And, so he just doubled down and fought the left and fought the PC culture, and people loved him for it. They were like, yes, you're finally telling people we're not racist because we oppose the whole identity politics issue. And, don't let them get away with the labeling. Don't let them get away with the identity politics. Whereas the softer, more established Republicans who didn't want to disrupt their own little world of power, they don't do that. Don't do that. You're going to, be labeled racist, and don't be labeled a racist by fighting being called a racist. So there was this whole war between the never Trumpers then, and then you have the whole alt-right guys and right. gals or whoever, who are really into mocking the left and doubling down on the rhetoric. And, oh, you're going to call me anti-Semitic? Nah, I'm going to actually I'm going to put out even more memes that look like anti-Semitism. They're just really kind of, if you watch Harry Potter, they're like the Weasley brothers. And, just causing trouble. And, so that's what I refer to a lot of the people on the alt-right. We're just, the Weasley brothers. And, not saying that. I know, guys, everyone, that there are racists and anti-Semites in the world and in the alt-right, but they're also there in the left. They're there, okay? The sub-creatures are there. We know that.
They're the vast majority.
Whole, there's a lot more going on than just a whole bunch of crazed racists and bigots. What you have super recently, so that was going on in the 2016, what you have super recently with the Groypers and the Nick Fuentes supporters and their opposition to Daily Wire and Turning Point USA, right. is again, what's ironic is that Daily Wire, Turning Point USA, I think some other organizations, one that I used to work for is kind of coming up in that way, are replacing some of the more past establishment media organizations and becoming establishment themselves. They once saw themselves as being the mavericks and the new thought leaders, but they're really infested with a lot of libertarianism. So there's a lot of social liberalism there. But you also have a lot of young millennials who lead these organizations who are really about the money. They are big. There's a lot of wealth and a lot of donors and a lot of investors that come into these groups that are speaking out. I mean, who are your front lines now? Commentary, like Daily Wire and places like that. They say a lot of good things that I would agree with. Of course, I used to work for them, so of course, not everything they're saying is bad, but there's an underbelly to these new media outlets and campaigns and groups like Turning Point that are highly money driven by investors. And it makes the people in it not free to really speak against the culture like you would want them to.
Right.
And so because of that, they're kind of turning into the old Republican establishment types who are like buttoned down on the stuff that's going to get you labeled by the left. So please don't sound like a racist. Please don't sound like a homophobe. Please don't sound like a bigot. Let's just talk about the economics. Abortion's now really cool to talk about. We'll talk about abortion, that kind of stuff.
Don't ruin our brand because it's going to.
But don't ruin our brand by talking about, maybe homosexuality isn't as God designed, or, oh my gosh, don't talk about, feminists, or don't talk about, transgenders not being able to be around us or anything like that. And these guys, and the whole Jewish part of it, I think, is also that there's a lot of Jewish money and Jewish funding by people who are Jews in the media. I don't have a problem with that. It's just the way it is. They're highly represented, but brilliant people, and that seems to bother a lot of the groupers. The overrepresentation of this crew of the Jewish influence, and they're suspect of them that they're actually not pro-Christian principles. Of course, they're not Christian, but I don't see that kind of influence by Jewish people in the media that they're actually against our Christian social values. I don't agree with them on that. So
wow, man, if it was, the Christians would be taking it really hard for
decades. They are. And what I see is not the Jewish factor. I don't think it's because they're Jewish. I think it's because they're libertarian. And I think that they don't hold to the same social structures that conservatives who are built on a Christian foundation. Whether you like it or not, what do you want to change? If you're going to talk about conservatism, it's based on a moral Christian foundation. It just is, unless you want to just rewrite history.
Right.
Now you can say that you want to change the conservative movement, but call it something else, because that's not what the Buckley, Reagan conservative, well, even all they way back to the founders, the founding of conservative, that wasn't the term back then, but mentality is and value structure. So I really think it's more the libertarian influence. And I say that as someone who loves small government, who once called myself a pseudo-libertarian, because of my value of limited government, small government. But I was never on board with the social liberalism. And so even though I am still a libertarian in that I'm against social libertarianism and liberalism, and I want to speak out against it as I do, but I don't want government intervention to change it, because I don't think the role of government is to promote virtue. I think that's a nightmare. And the role of government is to restrain evil. So it's federal government in particular. So that's what you have going on. So you have these young guys who are kind of motivated still against the labeling of the left, and they see the shifts in culture still going toward the left, and they see this new crop of conservative ink, as we call it, not standing up to it.
Conservative ink, you refer to the Shapiro, the Daily Wire.
Yeah, conservative ink is like, Daily Caller, Federalist, Turning Point USA.
The big money organizations. Yeah,
the organizations that speak on campus, YAF, I think that's what it's called, and Daily Wire and all of those. They see them as being money-driven, sellouts on the social issues. And I'm going to just say, because there's always personal stuff, they're also just really arrogant and annoying. And so I think there's just a point of just, you guys think you're just the cool kids at the table. Because we never really graduate from high school, do we?
We don't have a lot of, we don't have ceremony.
I think revenge of the nerds going on here against, which ironically, I think a lot of the guys who formed Conservative Inc. were the nerds themselves at one point. And they were rebelling, and they were like the revenge of the nerds. And now they've become the cool guys or whatever, the money guys. Wow. And now a whole new crop. It's kind of a Marxist struggle going on here. In Conservative Inc., against the Groyper alt-right, whatever guys. So that's what's going on there. And, and anyone like me or Michelle Malkin, who kind of looking back at this, I have my enemies on both sides of all of this and all sides of that personally. I kind of am like, these groups that are opposing conservative have things to say. We shouldn't just toss them out. I said the same thing during the Trump election with the alt-right and people who were supporting, even not the alt-right, but the supporters of Trump. Don't toss them out as if they don't have a point to make, because they do. While at the same time you can say, knock your racist crap off if that's the way you're heading. I think we don't talk enough. Again, we're reducing everyone, and so I can say to someone, listen, I see what you're saying about identity politics, and I see what your problem is with Charlie Kirk and the rest of them, and that they're selling out on some values that we should be having if we want to be maintaining a Christian worldview in our nation. But they're don't go overboard and think it's a Jewish conspiracy going on, that kind of thing. Is it okay to point out that a lot of them are Jewish? Fine. Do they click together? They do, but any group does. This is nothing unique. But there's not some kind of conspiracy, and don't start going into some kind of weird stuff that I get from some of the Groypers.
Well, how hypocritical? I know there's hypocrites on both sides. I'm a hypocrite. You're a hypocrite. And again, I wish.
I don't think they're hypocrites. And I don't think they're hypocrites on both sides. And hypocrites are when you're actively doing something and saying that you're not.
But at some level,
they're sinners on all sides.
Yeah, at some level, I think we all say one thing and do another, and pretend and put our masks on and whatnot. And obviously, it stands out more for me on the left, because how can you be against, I don't know, Marineland having caged whales and dolphins in a tank, but think that abortion is okay? I just don't get how anyone can have those two beliefs at the same time. And then I look at the Shapiro thing. Here's a man that constantly says on his show, I believe, my religion teaches me that homosexuality is a sin. You come to your husband's defense because a homosexual on Twitter tells you that he's abusing you, or the other way around. I don't know exactly what it is. And then you're cut loose for just softly going around. You know what? It doesn't seem appropriate me taking relationship advice from a gay man. So to me, innocent. You'd think that a guy like Shapiro would go, no big deal, Denise, we got your back. In other words, instead, you're out the door because you're a threat to his brand. Like, I've
maligned and blackballed. I mean, it's bad. It's not just,
really.
I mean, there were people, Andrew Klavan, for example, if you know who he is.
Yeah.
He was one who said, maybe you should have said it so harshly, Denise, and but I understand what happened, and don't do
harshly.
It. But that's okay. I mean, but should you be fired? No. I mean, some people at Blaze TV were like, should she be fired? No. But the rest of them,
got on the show. Klavan come to your defense on a show, or is this just a private conversation? Yeah.
No, Klavan did on a show.
Oh, he did. Okay, good.
And me only once, but he did at least that. But he's more, he's older. He's a lot more mature than a lot of them. And unfortunately, it hasn't died down because the blackballing behind the scenes continues. And it's just a real power struggle. It's vindictive. It's driven by personal pettiness. It makes me angry, and I fight back, and that makes me look petty. But there's a lot going on behind the scenes that I'm reacting to. But it's that kind of stuff that drives. That's just one example. My example is just one part of it that drives this hostility against these groups that are frontline speakers for conservatism. Mm-hmm. So conservatism has its representations in the Charlie Kirks and Ben Shapiro's, and we value so much of what they say. I mean, their fight for free speech, ironically, is so good. Yeah. But then they undermine it with these kind of actions, born out of fear of what people will think of them,
or the loss of.
The loss of money is what people think, is what their investors will think. So, one of the things a friend of mine who's in business said to me, I would never work again for anyone who has investors. Work for someone who's completely profit driven, where they have to earn their money and they're emboldened only to their customers, because they have a freedom that people who have investors don't. And unfortunately, a lot of these media brands are solely driven by investors, and sometimes only one or two investors. Some cases, only one investor. When you have that going on, you have a totalitarian regime of one or a group of investors dictating brands what they cannot say. And even if they're not dictating, there's a unspoken understanding of lines that should not be crossed. And so these media brands and media personalities are often enslaved to the expectations of their investors, and because they don't want to lose their funding, they don't lose their money. And so there's that. There's also just, gosh, I hate to say it, there's also just something that doesn't have anything to do with money, and it comes back to your point about groups and tribes and humanity, because we're broken and fallen and sinful, and we don't see each other as human beings first, made in God's image, and that's our tribe. We have a tribe of one, and it's called being made in God's image. And we should,
one race.
Out of that comes a lot of beautiful diversity, but it's out of that comes the diversity, because we've rejected that objective commonality. All we have are all the bits and all the parts and all the tribes and all the groups. And when you divide in that, whether it's a tribe of one or a tribe of 1,000, whatever your group is, that becomes your God. And that's where you find meaning and value. And that's where you think you gain your image. I'm made in the image of my tribe instead of the image of God. And so your loyalty becomes to the tribe and being accepted by the tribe and having status in the tribe, And the worst thing you can imagine is being kicked out of the tribe and being disassociated from the tribe. And so it's group dynamics. Anyone in sociology, it's you have your in groups and your out groups, and no one wants to be in an out group. It's a horrible thing. Out groups are stigmatized. Out groups are delegitimized. Out groups are, enslaved. Sometimes they're treated cruelly. We hate them, and you want to be on the in group because there's also where power is. There's power in the in group. There's not power in the out group until the out group becomes an in group. And so a lot of the time in these situations, people are just terrified to be separated from their group and where they find their identity. And, it takes a lot of strength of character in the times in which we live to be able to look at your tribe as being the tribe of the human race. And my tribe is in Christ. My identity is in Christ. My purpose is in Christ. And if I stand alone on an island, abandoned by all the other groups, I still have value and dignity, and I don't need to compromise myself to get with the groups. It takes a lot to be able to do that. And it's hard. It's hard because money's involved, friendships involved, status is involved. It's a hard thing.
Connection, community. Yeah, it's almost
connection,
like
community, jobs, your welfare, is all tied up into it. But, you have to be able to, especially in this business, it's not all businesses are like what I'm describing, but especially in this media business, in politics, but especially like this. And, it's hard not to align yourself and then give up your principles or become hypocritical or hide things. In order to stay in the group.
Then it becomes guard your actions, because if you step out of line, then you're out. So
you're out. You're off the island. Voted off.
Within these boundaries, which is unhealthy. I mean, every solution to any major problem that we've ever solved has come from the extremes, where we looked and we go, "Oh, you're radical. You're out there." Next thing you know, it's a cure. It's mainstream belief. So. A lot of the solutions come from the extremes, from the distribution, where there's very few out on the ends of it. And,
bell curve.
Yeah, exactly. Denise, I really appreciate your time. I'm going to cut you loose soon. I can't cut you loose though without talking to you about Milo. I love Milo. I find him to be absolutely insufferable most of the time. I could barely watch, and I'm not the one that
you watched it with me. My show.
I had a hard time getting through it, but I suggested it to Gavin. I've managed to make my way on. I paid Gavin for the first time. I'm paying for content. I think he's absolutely hilarious. One of the funniest men on the planet right now. And on one of my calls, I said, you really need to. Look up Denise McAllister, great writer. She might be good on the podcast, because I know you said, I don't know if I'm good at the video and the audio and stuff like that. I'm a writer, and I read your book, most of it, and you're a brilliant writer. And I love the Ryan Katsu Rivera. He calls him a co-host. He's really his producer. Their chemistry is unbelievable. And I happened to mention to him, hey, she'd be great for the Island of Misfits, as he calls it. If you're banned, we got you. Joe Biggs, Milo. Huh?
I'm Molly the doll.
So,
the cowboy riding the ostrich. That's who he is.
I love him. So anyway, I tried to watch you on with Milo, and he just wouldn't let you speak. He's like, I really appreciate him. He's different. He's not my kind of guy. Even if I was gay, he wouldn't be my kind of guy. But I appreciate his flamboyancy and whatnot, but he just wouldn't let you get a conversation going. And I just kept saying, I sent you a DM, like, man, okay. And I said it to him. Actually, one of my calls on with Gavin, my cell was cutting out, and he had a really bad echo with it. When I had the earbuds in, it was almost impossible to make the call. But he managed, through the garble, he managed to get, would that gay just shut his mouth? That's if it was all cut up and everything. So tell me about your experience on with Milo Yiannopoulos.
I love Milo. Milo. I defended Milo back, when all of it went down with him, and even before that, when people were calling him a racist. He was part of that alt-right, mischievous, group.
Homophobe.
Yeah, the homophobe who's homosexual. Who's a racist who's married
to a black guy. Yeah.
Very weird. And so I defended him back then. And a lot of people don't understand, how I can align, with Milo, my criticism of homosexuality itself. They don't understand, I don't reduce people like other people do. I mean, Milo is a fully integrated human being with many, many different facets to him. And I adore and love many aspects of him and him as a human being, even if I disagree with him on some things. And so I came to defense. So that kind of put me on the bad side of all the cool people when I defended Milo back in the day. And then, of course, when it happened with me, he came to my defense as well, because we both understand what's going on. And several homosexuals came to my defense. Actually, it was really kind of like, guys, yeah, thank you. You actually get it. And I think one reason why is that as homosexuals, they understand what real homophobia and nastiness and cruelty looks like because they've lived it and they know what it doesn't look like. And, it's kind of like when not to deviate into something really horrible, but the whole Me Too movement and women complaining about rape and all this. I'm really critical of a lot of these women because I have been raped and I know what it looks like and I know what it feels like and I know what that is. And so don't try to, don't downplay. I'm not going to have sympathy for someone who gets flirted with when she doesn't want to. It's just not.
Regrets the sex afterwards.
Yeah, or whatever. Yeah, you went to the hotel room when, well, anyway, I'll get myself in trouble if I get there. Yeah. But but Milo, going on the show, he invited me, he blurbed my book. So he's, which is great. I really am grateful to him for that. And he invited me on the show. Yeah, it was fun. I mean, he does talk, but I love to hear him talk. I mean, maybe it didn't bother me because I could just listen to him talk all day. I really can. I think he's brilliant and funny. And
he's all of that, and he's completely full of himself, which is part of the character. I get it. And now that I'm remembering it, yeah, you guys are doing shots of Screech or some stuff.
No, I brought him a gift of moonshine from North Carolina.
Yeah, well, that's Screech, whatever. Yeah. They call it that.
So he was like bringing it on the show, making me drink it.
Like straight, just white lightning alcohol?
Yeah.
Moonshine. 180 proof.
Mm-hmm.
Like fire.
But it was good to talk to him because he really understood the deplatforming that's going on, the cancel culture that's going on. And even if you disagree with someone that don't like how they said something, it's not cause to completely ruin their career. And so he had a little fun bet with Meghan McCain, who's also part of the whole council thing with me.
And started a whole series of beautiful memes of, I was at your wedding, Denise.
I was at your wedding, Denise. I loved how he said that. He said it like 4 times. I was like, that is hilarious. I almost want to take that recording and put him saying that as a ringtone for my ring. I'm going to do that. I am. I'm going to take Milo and say, you're at my wedding, Denise. And that British accent and sass that he has. I'm going to do it.
Sass for sure.
My husband will be horrified, but I'll do it.
Now, who joined you on that show? He really knew his place. He was good enough to just let you two go at it. I think he maybe.
Oh, Joe, who was the.
Who was it?
Who was the other? Joe, I can't remember his last name. He's one of the Proud Boy leaders. Yeah.
No, it wasn't Biggs, was it?
No.
Oh. Okay.
Not Joe Biggs, no. It was a good opportunity just to talk and about what happened. Also, just about some things about sexuality and the foundation of marriage and Christian culture, which Milo gets. And it's good for people to rally together and try to understand what's going on in the politics today, even on the right, and stand firm and support each other and build new platforms that really Gavin is definitely working on that in his way, and I applaud them in their efforts. I mean, we need to not be cutting each other out on the right for things like that. I mean, just we can't. The war against a totalitarian left that has abandoned reason and objective reality is so important today that silencing people on our own side for pettiness and high school stuff or embarrassing moments or fear of brand trouble and that kind of stuff is really inappropriate, and we need to fight that.
Cool. couple more questions. You got any vices? What do you struggle with?
What are my vices?
Yeah, like what are you like when you're like, we've all got them, you know, at different levels that you're standing, and it can't be chocolate, okay? Like something that's seriously a risk to your well-being that you have a problem staying away from.
Twitter.
And you've got the carpal tunnel to prove it.
Twitter. Yeah.
Is social media an absolute sickness for us, or what? Like I'm addicted to it too. I should be spending more time on YouTube because at least there you can make some coin. Like
I know. I'm in the middle of building my own website, and it's taking a lot of time because I'm too busy like yappering on. One of the problems with me with social media is because I have ADD, and one of the things that's great, especially as a writer or a commentator, having social media where you get immediate response and you're able to engage. And if you're that kind of person that's wanting immediately out the door and back and forth, which I live on, I love just debate, and I love immediate gratification when it comes to intellect. Yeah. It's good on the physical too, but I like but I like it, intellectually, I like just having that gratification of someone coming back at me with an idea or an opposition, and then I go back at them. I'm also like a dog with a bone when I'm making an argument, and I'm like, I want to make my point, and I want to win this, and get it all out there. And on Twitter, you have to do it in like 20,000 tweets to get your whole argument out there. And my husband's like, why are you doing this? Just write an article on your website and put it there. Then you can also make some money.
Your husband just
you'll be sane, and you won't be sitting there with the phone in front of your face. Yeah. And I'm like, I know, you're right. Chain me to my computer without
stop
working on my website and my writing. But the thing is I'm like, yeah, but when I'm writing my articles, I'm not getting that immediate. I'm not getting my distraction taken care of. That's why writing books is so hard for me. I mean, I have to chain myself down to write a book.
I feel your pain, and somebody says something and you're like, oh, dude, I think it's time that I admit. I have the mind of an air traffic controller. I have 4 or 5 or 6 projects going on, and I skip from one. I do a little bit, because as soon as I click upload, and I know it's going to take 15 minutes, I need to get engaged in something else. I'm not going to just sit there and wait for it to upload. You go do something else. It's like a waste of time sitting around. So I totally feel you. And I think the dopamine rush is certainly something that's attractive on the Twitter platform. Oh
yeah, the intensity and it's just like this stimulation. And when you have that ADD, it's like pinging everywhere. And when I'm writing a book, I have to sit and stay focused. I'm in my own head, and I don't have any of that give and take, except in my own head. And I enjoy that, and I get my books done, and I write, and I can do it. But when I get into a pattern of just doing it on social media, I kind of have a hard time getting back off of it. And I have to, because it's not productive.
You can't shut it down. You're trying to get to sleep, and it just ping, 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 ping. And
no, I don't have notifications on. No, I can't do that.
Yeah.
I have no notifications on.
I don't mean the sound, but yeah, the
pinging in your head.
Yeah, you see every time you log on, the red light shows up and shows you got 50 notifications.
Oh no, in my house, my family makes me turn it off.
I'm glad to hear that.
Other vices, I guess that's the big one. I mean, just I don't know. I really like red wine. No, I'm not an alcoholic, so stop. But I do like red wine. Well, and I just shouldn't have it so much for my health, because I've had health issues in the past, and it's just not good for my inflammation.
Mm-hmm. I hear you. Just a couple more things on the way out. Who are you chummy with? I heard you mention Michelle Malkin. Who do you roll with? Who are your friends out there these days?
I don't know Michelle personally. Okay. I just know we're in the same sphere.
Definitely.
Well, I don't know. My friends have turned on me.
I'm experiencing the same thing. It's like, even my brother, I sat with my brother the other day. I said to him, I don't care. I like Trump more and more every day. He's hilarious. He's he's the greatest troll this generation will ever know. He's engaging. He's making us engage in a conversation that was way overdue. And he almost got up and left. Now, my brother, let's call him, he's a little bit more simple. You know, he doesn't care about politics. He doesn't read the paper. I'm obsessed with it. I'm complex. I'm deep. And I just decided I wasn't going to hate Trump. And he watched The Apprentice. I don't watch things like that. And so he already had a preconceived notion of who Trump was, but he almost got up and left. And then they all go to he's a racist. He grabs women and probably like I get so tired of defending Trump because I appreciate what he's bringing to the political conversation. Yeah, no one's perfect, and he's bombastic, and that's just what
I wouldn't want to be married to him.
No, he's an easy guy not to like. But I've had a lot of people who look at me and go, "Who are you? You are not the same person." I'm like, "You're right. I'm not. I'm growing, and I want to pat myself on the back a little bit to be open enough to go, well, wait a second. I don't really believe that anymore. I didn't even realize that. Like, I need to reassess that I'm not 24 anymore." And so, yeah, I've felt that a little bit of pain as well, as far as, the alienation of people that, this whole, I thought I knew you and you surprised me, Jim. I'm like, oh, like, you condescending, like, come on, like, you know better. So.
It's terrible. I mean, I had to move because of a neighbor became so difficult in response to my career and things that were happening to me. And, so it was.
I heard the reports of death threats as well.
Yeah, death threats and stuff like that, which I had nothing, I'm the victim here on that. And, but it was always my fault for some reason. So yeah, it's been hard to maintain relationships, plus just everything that happened with Yashar Ali and all that. Lost all of my friends that I'd worked with for 4 or 5 years.
Right, because you're homophobic? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what they're saying about that's why you lose these friendships, because they consider you
I don't know. I mean, it just after that happened, no one spoke to me again. Wow. And also blackballing behind the scenes. But I still have friends with me. I mean, I adore Sean Hannity. He's always been a dear, and David Limbaugh's a dear. Just adore him. So there are people who stand by you no matter what, and just noble men who see through a lot of the garbage and the maturity. I mean, it's finding the maturity, and I find it hard to maintain relationships with women in this business because it's so competitive and women are nasty in competition.
I think it's difficult. On a normal day, women just they just undercut each other all the time. It seems like, guys, we solve things, we punch each other out, and then we go for a beer. Like, you know how it works.
No, girls can't do that.
We wrote a whole book about it.
I mean, if women get along great, if they're not competing with each other, or if they're competing together on a team or something. But if they're competing with each other, it's very hard for them to get past that and really have a good relationship. So, yeah, that's been, even though there's some really good, Rachel Fulton Brown, who's a wonderful, she wrote Milo Chronicles, which is coming out, I think, in this month
okay.
It's coming out before Christmas.
Okay.
I need to get my blurb written for that. So yeah, they're great. They're great women. They're great men in the business, who I hang with. I pretty much, I live in Charlotte, so I'm not in the devil's triangle of DC, New York, and LA. Thank God. I have to fly up there enough into the devil's triangle, but I always get out of it.
You ever bury the hatchet with somebody you had a huge falling out with?
With in this past year?
Well, no, just over the last, I don't know, many years, something that you can point to. I think it's really difficult when when you're experiencing pain, hardship, lack of employability, to ever imagine, working for a Daily Wire or somebody like that again. I just wondered if you've ever gone to war with somebody, been mistreated, and then come around and patched it up and been friends again.
No.
No.
No, and not because of, lack of trying. I mean, in the recent situation, I haven't reached out to some of these people, mainly because I know they wouldn't respond. Mm-hmm. There have been a couple of people, one associated, I won't name her, gone on with Turning Point USA. We had a little conflict, and I reached out and was like apologetic, and it was a misunderstanding, and I was wrong actually in the conflict, but there was no response. I mean, pretty much when you're, this is a very graceless business, let me put it that way. And I've kind of learned to deal with it. It's kind of sad because while I can deal with conflict, I do not like conflict in my interpersonal relationships. I can deal with conflict on the stage, and in the big fight, but behind the scenes or in my world, I don't like it. And I like to be, I'm really quick. If you've done something against me and you ask for forgiveness, I really like to forgive.
There we go.
It makes me very happy. I want to forgive you. And I expect that a little bit. And I know I shouldn't expect it because grace is a gift, but I really long for reconciliation. I long for grace to be shown. And it makes me very, very sad. Maybe it's because I screw up so much. I really need forgiveness a lot. And I really want it because I make mistakes so often. But I'm finding the older I get, and especially in this business, very few people are willing to give it. Once you're out, you're out. Once you're voted off the island, you never come back.
Denise McAllister.
It's the game of Survivor.
Yeah, there you go. Pump your book a little bit on the way out. How do we get it? It's up for pre-order. Comes out in February, doesn't it?
Comes out February 11th, right before Valentine's Day. And it is on pre-order at Amazon. And I think you can go to Barnes & Noble as well. So it's what men want to say to women but can't. And it's about the damage that feminism has done to the relationships between men and women. It's very much a celebration of masculinity. Men will love to read it because I think it will encourage you. There will be parts of it at the end that will challenge you. But I think it will maybe get you and also make you understand what's going on with women as well and why they are the way they are and why they think the way they do. But it will mostly be an encouragement to you. I really want women to read it because I want you to see how men are and what you're doing to them, and what they don't deserve and how valuable they are and how much we need masculinity in men in our lives, and how you've been sold a bill of lies by feminism, modern feminism.
Amen. Well, you look fantastic, as I expected you would.
Thank you. I just turned 53, so.
Atta girl. Look, and there's nothing more than that crooked, evil-ish grin. I like it. Just before you drop something important, you get this little girl evil grin on your face. Your husband's a lucky man. I love you. Thank you for the time. I really appreciate it. I love what you're doing out there, and I've kept you for a long time, but I appreciate that. Hey, we got lots to talk about, so I appreciate the access and the time. Denise, we'll do it again in the new year, maybe when you're maybe after the book comes out.
Okay, and thank you to your viewers. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. All right, that's Denise McAllister. If you need her, I think I know how to turn this thing off now. Stop recording first. Okay, Denise, take care. We'll talk soon.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.